Welcome, restless dreamer. You've just stepped into the shadows of sleep, where stories whisper and the darkness listens. I'm your guide tonight, your voice in the void, here to lead you gently into nightmares wrapped in lullabies. Before we begin, press like if you're brave enough, and subscribe for more midnight tales that blur the line between sleep and terror. Tell me in the comments, where are you watching from, and what hour has found you? Mia had always liked quiet things, folded laundry, the sound of window rain, the way her old DSLR camera clicked just a little too loud. She was 17 now. College was coming fast, and her room looked like it had been hit by a hurricane of memories. Boxes half packed, wall posters half torn, books stacked sideways. Her camera, once her favorite hobby, sat untouched for over a year. It was time to let it go. She took a few final shots for fun. Sunlight through her blinds, her dog Charlie napping under the bed, the shadow her desk lamp made when it flickered. Then she listed it on Quicksell, a local second-hand app. Great condition, she wrote. DSLR, lightly used, includes case, $150 OBO. Within the hour, she got a message. Liam 14. Hey, still got the camera? I'll take it full price. Can pick up tomorrow. Too easy. Mia typed back. Yeah, still have it. Want to meet at Sunbeam Coffee on Main? Safe and public. Liam replied almost immediately. Sure, 2 p.m. good? Perfect. She told her best friend Jules about it later that night while they scrolled on their phones. Jules raised an eyebrow. You sure he's not weird? Who pays full price on these apps? Mia laughed it off. You think he's a camera-obsessed murderer? Maybe not a murderer, Jules said, but definitely camera-obsessed. They both laughed. But later, when Mia lay in bed, something gnawed at her. She checked the messages again, reading them too closely. There was nothing threatening. No weird emojis. Just a guy who wanted a camera. Still, she closed the curtains tighter that night. Sunbeam Coffee was warm and crowded, full of clinking mugs and humming chatter. Mia arrived early and grabbed a seat near the front window, camera bag beside her feet. At 2 p.m. sharp, she looked up every time the door chimed. By 2:15, she was nervously sipping her second iced latte. At 2:25, she sent a message. Hey, I'm here at the coffee shop. You still coming? No reply. She scrolled back to the chat, thinking maybe she missed something. Maybe the time had been different, but everything matched. At 2:31, a new message popped up. Liam 14. You looked better in your yellow hoodie yesterday. Mia stared at the screen, her chest tightening. She was wearing a gray sweatshirt now, but yesterday, she had worn her yellow hoodie all day. At home, she hadn't left the house, hadn't even gone outside. She'd been reorganizing her shelves, testing camera angles, standing by the window as golden afternoon light filtered through. She slowly looked around the coffee shop. No one stood out. She opened the camera app and scanned her window photos from yesterday. There, one of her standing with the camera aimed out. If someone had been watching from the trees behind the neighbor's fence, they could have seen in. Her hands trembled as she texted Jules. He didn't show, just sent me something really creepy. Said he saw me in my hoodie yesterday. Jules replied instantly. WTF. Mia, go home now. Tell your mom. Block him. Mia didn't respond. She was already halfway out the door, walking fast, keys clutched tight. Mia didn't run, not yet. But every step home felt like walking through syrup. Her hands were cold, despite the sun, her breath shaky. She kept glancing over her shoulder. Nothing. No silver cars, no strange men. Just her quiet neighborhood, cracked sidewalks and lazy birds overhead. She locked the door behind her as soon as she stepped inside. Charlie, her golden retriever, bounded up to greet her. She knelt down, hugging him tightly. Good boy, she whispered, trying to calm the quake in her chest. Just someone being creepy online, that's all. She spent the next hour reporting Liam's profile, blocking him, even deleting the Quicksell app altogether. She reset all her passwords and updated her privacy settings, but something still felt wrong. Charlie kept growling at the far corner of her room, the corner by the desk, the corner where she'd left the camera. It was still there, zipped up in its case. She checked the window again, still locked. She even closed the curtains, tight. Later that night, just before bed, Mia opened the camera out of habit. She told herself she'd clear the memory card, delete everything, wipe it clean. There were new files, 3 videos she didn't remember recording, all dated yesterday. The first was shaky, just a recording of her bedroom from the corner. 15 minutes of nothing. The second one was darker, filmed from near the door. Again, just static moments. No one in frame, no sound. The third one made her stomach turn. A whispering voice, low, distorted, repeating her name. Mia, beautiful Mia, can I keep you? The camera angle, from inside her closet. She slammed the device shut and backed away from the desk. The world suddenly felt too small, like the walls were folding in. Her fingers hovered over her phone. Do I call 911? But what would she say? Someone whispered on her own camera. That night she slept with the lights on and the closet door duct-taped shut. Charlie growled for over an hour before finally curling up at the foot of her bed. But just after 3:12 a.m. she woke with a jolt. Her bedroom was quiet, too quiet, and cold. She sat up slowly, her heart already racing, though she didn't know why. Then she saw it. The window was open, just a crack, enough to let in a whisper of wind. She knew she'd locked it. She remembered locking it. Charlie was whimpering now, tail between his legs, staring at the window like something might crawl through it at any moment. She grabbed her phone and walked toward the window, hands shaking. As she reached out to close it, tap. She spun around. The sound didn't come from the window. It came from the hallway. 3 soft knocks. Then silence. Then the doorknob jiggled. She stumbled backward, slamming the window shut and diving for the phone. She texted Jules. He's here. Someone is at my door. No reply. She crouched near her closet, shaking. Charlie pressed against her side. Then came the voice, muffled through the door, almost gentle. Hey, Mia, you forgot your camera. Her throat closed. He was in the house. She didn't think. She moved. Barefoot, she grabbed Charlie and bolted. Out the window if she had to. But when she reached the hallway, no one was there. The front door stood open. The lock busted clean off, like it had been kicked in. Her heart thudded so loudly it was all she could hear. Then, footsteps, heavy, behind her, from the bedroom she'd just left. She ran. Down the apartment stairs, Charlie barking wildly behind her. Her feet hit pavement. She didn't stop to grab shoes. She didn't stop to look back. She just ran. 3 blocks to the hospital, the only place with lights at that hour. She burst into the ER, sobbing, shaking. The nurse at the counter looked up in shock. I need my sister, Mia gasped. Harper. She works here. Harper came running within seconds. Mia collapsed into her arms, choking on the words she'd been too afraid to say for weeks. The police found him hiding under a bridge just 5 blocks away. Not Liam. Not even close. His name was Craig Landon, 42, convicted in another state for stalking, assault, and attempted kidnapping. He had used multiple fake accounts on Quicksell, always targeting young girls, always pretending to buy or sell something cheap. They found hard drives in his car, footage of Mia, dozens of others. But Mia was the only one who got away. They moved within the week. Harper got a transfer to Portland. Mia never touched that camera again, but she didn't throw it out, because every time she did, it came back. Once she tossed it into a donation bin. It showed up on her new desk the next morning, clean and blinking red. She burned it once, but the next morning, it was on her pillow. That night, she opened the camera and hit record. She sat in front of it, face pale and still. If you're watching this, she said softly, you need to know something. It's not just a camera. It's not just him. She leaned closer to the lens. The camera chooses who it wants to see, and once it sees you, it never stops watching. The screen flickered, and behind her, just for a frame, a shadow moved, closer. Lena always believed she was cautious, the kind of person who double-checked locks and avoided dark alleys. But when she saw the listing, that perfect little cabin tucked in the woods for a weekend getaway, she ignored the nagging in her gut. It was cheap, too cheap. But the photos looked cozy, and after months of grinding at work, she needed a break. Her best friend Katie had joked, "Don't end up in one of those horror movie Airbnb stories." Lena laughed it off. She wasn't naive. She'd checked the reviews, well, the 2 that existed, and everything seemed fine. A quiet retreat with no neighbors and no cell service sounded like heaven, or so she thought. The drive out to the mountains felt longer than it should have. By the time Lena reached the gravel road winding through towering pines, dusk had fallen, painting the forest in shadow. The cabin sat at the end of a long, unmarked lane, its porch lights glowing weakly. At first glance it was charming. Aged wood, a tin roof, a swing on the porch. But something felt off. The silence around it wasn't peaceful. It was heavy. She shook it off. You're just tired. Inside, the cabin smelled faintly of damp wood and something metallic. Dust coated the corners of the living room, and the furniture looked older than the photos suggested. A Polaroid was pinned to the fridge, a smiling couple on the porch. "Welcome," scrawled beneath it. She didn't remember seeing this photo online. By nightfall, rain began tapping against the windows. Lena curled on the couch, scrolling through her offline playlists, when she noticed something odd. Her phone gallery contained new photos. Her heart skipped. The pictures were of the cabin's interior, her, sitting on the couch, taken just seconds ago. Lena's first instinct was denial. She told herself she must have accidentally triggered her camera. But then she saw one photo. Her back was to the lens, yet the angle came from across the room. She grabbed her phone and bolted outside, scanning the trees. The forest was black and still. The rain had slowed to a mist, the smell of wet pine sharp in the air. Then she saw them. 3 figures, standing just beyond the clearing, tall, unmoving. Their masks, blank white, featureless, caught faint glints of moonlight. "Hello?" Lena called, her voice trembling. The figures didn't move. Her phone buzzed again. A notification popped up. Live, 108 viewers. Confused, she tapped it. The screen revealed a live stream of the cabin's living room. A chat box scrolled beneath it. "She's cute. Run for us. Basement soon." Lena's stomach turned. This wasn't a prank. She was being watched. A sudden loud knock hit the back door. Lena screamed, dropping her phone. The knock came again, harder this time. She locked the door and shoved a chair under the handle. Heart pounding, she grabbed the fireplace poker from the hearth. The live stream was still running. She looked around the living room and spotted a blinking red light in the corner, a tiny camera hidden in the wall. She smashed it with the poker. A new message flashed across the chat. "Hey, don't ruin the feed. She's fun. Make her go to the basement." Another knock echoed through the hall. This time, it came with a voice. "Lena, you checked in, but you haven't checked out yet." Her blood ran cold. She ran for the bathroom, thinking she could crawl out the window. But then she heard something beneath her feet, a faint metallic dragging, like chains scraping on concrete, and whispering. The sound was coming from the basement. Every instinct told her not to go down there. But the pounding on the front door grew louder, and shadows moved outside the windows. The bathroom window was too small to squeeze through. With no choice, she crept to the basement door, gripping the poker like a lifeline. The smell of mildew and rot wafted out as she descended. The basement was lit by a single swinging bulb. Its walls were unfinished, lined with old shelves. A tripod camera pointed straight at the stairs, its little red light blinking. The whispers stopped. Then something moved. From behind a stack of boxes crawled a man, lanky, filthy, with matted hair and wide, glassy eyes. He dragged a chain in his hand, its links screeching on the floor. His grin stretched too far across his face. Lena stumbled back, but footsteps upstairs froze her in place. They were inside the cabin. The man on the floor tilted his head, smiling wider. He began crawling toward her on all fours. "Nope, nope, nope." Lena grabbed a brick from the shelf and hurled it at the small basement window, shattering it. As the man lunged, she swung the poker across his face, the sound of metal on bone ringing out. She didn't look back. She climbed through the broken window, cutting her hands on glass, and landed in the mud outside. The 3 masked figures were waiting near her car. 2 of the tires were slashed, rubber hanging in strips. One figure, tall, with a wolf-like mask, tilted his head in eerie silence. Lena ran. The forest swallowed her whole. Branches whipped her face as she sprinted through the dark. Laughter echoed behind her, high and taunting. Her phone buzzed in her pocket again. The live stream was still going. Now the camera feed showed her own frantic movements. The chat was alive with glee. "She's fast, not for long. $5 says she doesn't make the road. Tripwire ahead. Watch." Her foot snagged on something. She fell forward into the mud, just as a spiked wooden frame swung down from the trees, missing her by inches. She scrambled up, panic boiling. In a small clearing, she found muddy Polaroids scattered on the ground. One showed a young couple smiling on the cabin porch. Another showed them tied to chairs, fear etched in their eyes. The last one made her drop it. Both were lying in pools of blood. "Got you." The voice was behind her. Lena turned, swinging the poker wildly. A tall man in a deer skull mask ducked, crowbar raised. She slammed the poker into his stomach, enough to knock him back, then ran. Through the trees, the glow of the cabin returned. She didn't want to go back, but the road was beyond it. "You're not prey," she told herself. "You fight." Lena crouched behind the woodpile by the cabin, scanning the windows. The deer skull hunter was inside, moving slowly, crowbar in hand. Her eyes caught a rusted axe leaning against the porch rail. She swapped the poker for the axe, its weight grounding her fear. Climbing through the back window, she landed silently in the kitchen. Cameras blinked from the corners. One by one, she smashed them with the axe. The livestream chat exploded in fury. "Hey, kill feed offline! She's ruining the show!" A floorboard creaked behind her. The deer skull hunter lunged. She swung the axe, the blade biting into the doorframe as he ducked. He laughed, a horrible, rasping sound. "You're feisty, girl. The audience loves you. Go to hell." This time she didn't miss. The axe grazed his arm, enough to make him drop the crowbar. She snatched it and ran. But she wasn't going to just escape. She had a better idea. Outside, Lena spotted a tripod camera near the porch. She grabbed it and pointed it at her dirt-streaked face. "If anyone is watching this, call the police. This isn't a game," she shouted. The chat hesitated, then burst into chaos. "Whoa, she broke character. Real or fake? This is the best season yet." Footsteps pounded behind her. The porcelain mask hunter lunged from the tree line. She swung the crowbar, connecting with his jaw. He dropped, unconscious, or worse. She turned to the camera. "You want a finale? Fine. Watch this." Back inside the cabin, she grabbed a half-empty gas can by the fireplace. She doused the walls, coughing as fumes choked the air. The wolf mask hunter appeared in the doorway, crowbar raised. "You light that, you die with it." Lena stared him down, struck a match, and dropped it. Flames roared instantly, racing up the walls. Smoke thickened. She ran for the side window, hurling herself through it in a shower of glass. Sirens cut through the night as Lena stumbled onto the mountain road. 2 sheriff cruisers arrived, officers leaping out. She screamed for help, pointing to the burning cabin. One hunter, wolf mask, staggered out, clothes smoldering. He roared, charging. Gunshots rang out. The wolf dropped, unmoving. By dawn, the fire was under control. Lena sat in an ambulance, wrapped in a foil blanket. An officer approached her. "Ma'am, we searched the property. No cameras, no equipment, no sign of the other suspects." Lena stared at him, trembling. No, they were streaming. Hundreds of people were watching. He gave her a look of pity. "We'll keep searching. Get some rest." That night, in a cheap motel room, Lena lay awake, phone in hand. Every creak of the building set her nerves on edge. Then, her phone buzzed. A new message from an unknown number. "Nice finale, Lena. The audience can't wait for season 2. Her breath stopped. Slowly, she looked toward the motel mirror. A red light blinked from behind the glass. The end. I wasn't planning on buying anything that day. It was late February in St. Cloud, Minnesota, the kind of gray winter afternoon where even the sun looks tired. My son Noah, 9 years old and growing faster than I could keep up with, had been riding his old bike like a champ all year, but now his knees practically hit his chin when he pedaled. "Mom," he said, kicking his boots off, cheeks pink from the cold, "I think my bike's too small now." That was a lie. It had been too small for months, but money was tight since my divorce, and a new bike, especially the kind he drooled over, wasn't in the cards. "Maybe for your birthday," I told him, kissing his forehead. "We'll see what we can do." He sighed but smiled anyway. That night, after Noah was asleep, I found myself scrolling Craigslist. Most of the bikes were junk. Chains rusted, tires flat. But one listing caught my eye. Vintage red tricycle, good condition, $30. Perfect for kids 8 to 10. The photos showed a bright red frame with silver handlebars and a shiny bell. It looked pristine. like something from a 1960s catalog. The seller, Frank H., said his own kids had outgrown it. His house was just outside of town. I told myself it was fate. Noah's birthday was only a week away. Frank's place was a sagging farmhouse at the end of a gravel road. A cold wind whipped through the bare trees as I stepped onto his porch. He looked to be in his 60s, with watery blue eyes and a smile that didn't reach them. "You're here for the trike?" he asked, voice rough. "Yes," I said, forcing a polite smile. He led me to the garage. The tricycle sat alone in the corner, red paint gleaming under a weak bulb. It looked untouched. No dust, no scratches. "It's beautiful," I said, running my fingers over the handlebars. Frank chuckled softly. "Kids love it. Just make sure he doesn't ride too long after dark. These old things, they get funny when the sun goes down." I blinked. "What do you mean?" He shrugged. "Just old metal. Plays tricks on you." He took my cash before I could think twice. When Noah saw the tricycle on his birthday morning, he froze, then burst into a grin. "You found it!" he cried. "It's the same one from the picture." "Not quite, but close," I said, heart swelling. He threw his arms around me. "Thank you. I love it." All day, he rode in circles on the driveway, the bell ringing every few minutes. Ding! Ding! Something about the sound made me pause. It was deeper than I expected, hollow and sharp, like metal on metal. That night, I tucked him in. "Best birthday ever," he whispered, already drifting off. At 2 a.m., I woke to a faint ding, ding, ding. I sat up, pulse pounding. The sound was coming from outside. When I peered out the window, the driveway was empty, but the garage door was ajar. I slipped on my coat and went outside, breath steaming in the cold air. The tricycle sat in the middle of the garage floor, facing the door. I was sure I'd left it by the wall. The handlebars twitched, just a fraction of an inch, like someone had brushed past. "Nope," I muttered, wheeling it firmly back into place and locking the garage door behind me. The next day, I noticed scratches under the seat. At first, I thought it was rust, but when I rubbed it with a cloth, I saw faint etchings. Tommy, 1963. Under it, other names. Ella, 1978. Joey, 1989. Each name was carved deep, like someone had pressed with all their strength. That evening, Noah came in from riding, his shin bleeding from a fresh cut. "What happened?" I asked. "Pedal scraped me. It's sharp," he said. Then he added matter of fact, "Tommy told me to be careful." I froze. "Tommy, the boy who used to have it," Noah said, as if it was the most normal thing in the world. "He rides with me sometimes." I forced a laugh. "That's just your imagination, honey." Noah shook his head. "No. He said you can't hear him because you're too old." That night, I locked the tricycle in the shed, snapping a heavy padlock on the door. At 1 a.m., the bell rang again. I bolted upright. It wasn't faint this time. It was loud and urgent. Ding, 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 over and over. I ran to the window and felt my blood turn to ice. Noah was outside, pedaling the tricycle in perfect circles in the yard, his head tilted slightly like he was asleep. "Noah!" I screamed, running barefoot into the cold. He didn't look at me. "Tommy says I can't leave yet," he whispered. I grabbed him, yanking him off the trike. For a moment, I felt another hand, small, cold, clutching the handlebars, resisting me. Then the bell gave a final sharp ding, and Noah collapsed into my arms. The next morning, I scoured the internet. The brand, Cortellia Vista, had been discontinued decades ago. Then I found it, an old newspaper clipping from 1964. Boy dies in tricycle accident, Clearwater. The boy's name was Tommy Holloway. There were more stories. Accidents, injuries, parents claiming the trike moved on its own, or that their kids spoke of seeing Tommy. Frank Holloway, my seller. My stomach nodded. I texted him. "Did you know about the accidents?" No reply. That night, I heard metal scrape again. When I ran outside, my breath caught. The shed door hung open. The padlock was snapped in half. The tricycle was gone. I followed the faint sound of the bell, heart hammering, and found Noah at the far end of the yard. He sat on the trike, eyes wide and unfocused. The bell rang, over and over, spinning without his hand. "Noah!" I shouted, sprinting to him. The trike moved on its own, dragging him in tight circles. He whimpered, "Mom, I can't stop. I grabbed his jacket, pulling with all my strength. For a moment, I felt resistance, like someone else was holding him there. Let him go, I screamed. The bell rang one final time, and Noah toppled into my arms. The trike shot forward, crashing against the fence. The next morning, I loaded the tricycle into the back of my car. Noah clung to my sleeve. Tommy's mad, he whispered. He says if I don't ride, he'll find another kid. My blood ran cold. Not if I end this first. I drove back to Clearwater, back to the empty farmhouse. Frank was gone. Windows boarded, mailbox missing. I dragged the tricycle to the porch. You can keep your cursed junk, I shouted into the wind. The bell rang once, sharp and mocking. I grabbed a rusted shovel from the yard and swung it down with everything I had. The front wheel buckled. The handlebars bent. I smashed again and again until the bell split in half. The air went still. 2 weeks later, life almost felt normal. Noah rode a brand new bike I bought with my tax return, this time from a local dealer, not from some stranger's garage. But one night, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Why did you break my bike? Tommy. I blocked the number immediately. Still, sometimes when the wind is just right, I swear I hear a faint ding, 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 far off in the dark, calling for its next rider. I should have trusted my first instinct when I saw the thing standing in the corner of that dusty thrift shop. It wasn't the mannequin's condition that bothered me. If anything, it was too perfect. The pale porcelain face was uncracked, the painted lips untouched by time, and its glassy blue eyes seemed to stare through the dim light as if waiting for someone to notice. Creepy, my daughter Maddie whispered, clutching my arm. Not creepy, I said, forcing a smile. Vintage. It could be good for your sewing projects, right? The owner, a woman who looked older than the peeling paint on the walls, shuffled toward us with a grin that revealed gray, uneven teeth. That one's special, she croaked. Came from an old dressmaker's studio. Almost looks alive, don't it? Maddie wrinkled her nose. Yeah, it does. I should have walked out then, but it was only $20, and Maddie had just started a sewing club at school. It felt like a practical buy. Just a tool, something she could use. But that mannequin was never just a tool. We brought it home in the back seat, its hollow gaze fixed on Maddie like it was memorizing her face. Can we put it in the basement? She asked as we carried it inside. No, I said. It's just a mannequin, Maddie, not a monster. Still, I'll admit, when I turned it to face the wall in her sewing corner, I felt its presence behind me, like it was silently disapproving. That night, I was woken by the sound of something falling, a thump, followed by a faint scrape. I padded down the hall and peeked into Maddie's room. The mannequin was standing by her bed. I froze. Maddie? I whispered. She stirred, rubbing her eyes. What? Did you move it? She glanced at the corner where it should have been. No. I put it back, telling myself it must have been my imagination, that maybe we'd set it unevenly, and it had just tipped over. But deep down, I knew that wasn't true. It hadn't fallen. It had moved. By the third day, Maddie started talking to it. I walked into her room to find her whispering as she pinned fabric on the mannequin's torso. Who are you talking to? I asked. She smiled absent-mindedly. Her name's Claire. She says I'm doing a good job. Claire? The mannequin, she said, like I was the crazy one. She told me. A chill slid down my spine. I tried to laugh it off. Well, tell Claire she better be nice, or I'm returning her. But that night, I woke again, this time to the sound of soft footsteps. Maddie was in the kitchen, standing with her back to me, sewing scissors in her hand. Maddie? She turned, eyes wide and vacant. Claire wanted me to fix something, she whispered, before dropping the scissors and running back to bed. I called the thrift store the next morning. I'd like to return a mannequin I bought, I said. The woman on the other end went quiet. Oh, you bought her, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. You can't return her. What do you mean I can't? She chooses her home, you understand? If she's moved in with your girl, she's staying. The line went dead. When I told Maddie we were getting rid of it, she screamed like I'd just threatened her life. You can't. Claire will be mad at you. She said you'll regret it. Her sudden anger chilled me. It wasn't like her. That night, I stayed awake on the couch, determined to prove to myself that this was all in my head. Around 1 a.m., I heard faint creaking from the hallway. I grabbed a flashlight and crept toward Maddie's room. The mannequin stood in the doorway, but this time its arms were lifted, elbows bent as if reaching. Its porcelain fingers were curled, like claws. I stumbled back, heart pounding. What the hell? The flashlight flickered. For a split second, I swore its head tilted toward me. I grabbed it and hauled it out the back door, ignoring the way its joints seemed to resist my grip. I left it lying in the yard under the cold moonlight, its blank eyes staring at the sky. When I woke in the morning, the mannequin was back in the sewing room. Maddie was brushing its hair. "She doesn't like the yard," she said casually. "She says if you try that again, you'll be sorry." My blood ran cold. That night, I locked it in the garage. I even tied its arms with rope, feeling ridiculous but desperate. At 3 a.m., I woke to the sound of Maddie screaming. I ran into her room and froze. The mannequin was in her bed, its cold white face pressed against hers, glassy eyes wide. That was the last straw. I grabbed it, dragged it outside, and smashed it to pieces with a hammer. Its porcelain head shattered, shards flying like teeth. Maddie cried for hours, inconsolable. But by morning, she seemed herself again. The shadow under her eyes was gone. She didn't mention Claire once. For the first time in days, I slept soundly. 2 weeks later, I was scrolling through Facebook Marketplace when I saw it. A new listing from a seller named Frank H. Vintage Mannequin for sale. Excellent condition. $20. The photo showed a pale porcelain face with glassy blue eyes and a faint crack along the forehead where I had smashed it. I wasn't expecting much when Uncle Raymond's lawyer called. "All yours now," he said. "The house, the land, even the old furniture." My uncle had been a strange man, quiet, reclusive. As a kid, I only saw him a handful of times. He never married, never had children, and lived in that creaky Victorian house at the edge of town like a hermit. I figured I'd clean it out, sell it, and be done with it. But the moment I stepped inside, I felt watched. The air smelled like dust and rot. Every floorboard groaned, and the wallpaper peeled like old scabs. There were family photos on the mantel, but something was off. In one photo, Uncle Raymond stood with my father and my grandparents, but there was a blur between them, as if someone had been standing there, erased from existence. The house had 3 bedrooms, or so I thought. But while exploring the upstairs hallway, I noticed something strange. The wall between the guest room and the attic didn't line up. The hallway was too short, like there was space that shouldn't exist. That's when I found it. The faint outline of a door, hidden under layers of wallpaper. It took me an hour with a box cutter to peel back the wallpaper and reveal a locked door. The key was nowhere to be found. When I finally pried it open with a crowbar, dust poured out like breath. Inside was a bedroom frozen in time. There was a small wooden bed with faded floral sheets, a shelf lined with dusty toys, and a desk with an open journal. Everything was perfectly arranged, as if waiting for its owner to return, but I didn't remember anyone in our family who lived there. The journal was dated 1974. Its first entry read, "Daddy says I have to stay quiet. He says the house doesn't like me going outside, but I hear her singing when the lights go out." That night, I stayed in the house, too tired to drive back. Around 2 a.m., I woke to the sound of soft crying. It was faint, like it was coming from behind the walls. I grabbed a flashlight and crept upstairs. The door to the hidden room was open. I was sure I'd closed it earlier. Inside, the toys on the shelf had moved. A wooden horse that had been lying on its side was now standing upright, facing the bed. The journal was open to a new page. "I don't like the dark anymore. She says she wants to play. She says she's cold. She says she wants me to stay forever." The next day, I asked my father if he knew anything about the room. There was a pause on the other end of the line. "You found it," he said. "We don't talk about her." "Who?" I asked. He lowered his voice. "Your uncle had a sister. She died in that room when she was 7. The housekeeper found her. Raymond boarded the door up after that." My blood ran cold. "But Dad, the toys moved last night." There was silence, then a sigh. "Get out of that house. Now." The night she came back, I didn't listen. I wish I had. That night, I set up my phone to record the hallway, just to prove to myself I wasn't crazy. At 1:47 a.m., the crying started again, louder this time. Then, Faint footsteps. I peeked into the hidden room, and my breath caught. A little girl stood by the bed, her face pale, hair dripping as if she'd just climbed out of water. She held the wooden horse, rocking it back and forth. When she looked up at me, her eyes were hollow black pits. "You found my room," she whispered. "Now you can stay too." The door that wouldn't close. I ran. I slammed the door and bolted it shut, heart pounding. But the crying didn't stop. By morning, the door was open again, wide open. The toys were neatly arranged on the bed, and the journal had a new line scrawled across the page. "I don't like being alone. Come play." I left that house. I didn't go back for weeks. But last night, I drove past it. The upstairs window, the window to the hidden room, was lit, a faint glow spilling into the night. And in that glow, I swear I saw her face. When I got the graveyard shift at KJRV radio station, I thought it would be an easy gig. Just play music, read weather updates, and kill time between ads. The station was tucked in the middle of nowhere, surrounded by endless forests and frozen lakes. The building itself was ancient, wood-paneled walls, crackling equipment, and a single red light above the booth that hummed when it was on air. But the worst part wasn't the isolation. It was the tower. The station's old broadcasting tower loomed outside like a skeletal giant, creaking against the wind, its wires buzzing faintly, even when no electricity flowed. It started on my third night. I'd just finished playing a set list when I heard it, a faint whisper between the static. I leaned closer to the console, thinking it was interference. But then, I heard my own name. "Ryan." I froze. I rewound the tape of the broadcast. Nothing. The recording only had static, but I had heard it, clear as day. The next night, it happened again. This time, the voice was pleading. "Please, help me. It's dark here. It's so cold." I stared at the radio equipment, every hair on my body standing up. After my shift, I asked Terry, the day DJ, if he'd ever heard voices like that. He gave me a long, uneasy look. "You don't want to mess with that tower. It's old. Older than the station. Sometimes it picks up things." "Like what?" I asked. "Things that don't belong." A week later, the voice became stronger. "Ryan," it said, "you're here. I've been waiting for you." I yanked off my headphones. "Who is this?" No response. Just static, hissing like it was alive. Then, a second voice cut in. It was my voice. "You'll be here soon." I slammed every switch off, but the static didn't stop. For a full minute, the airwaves carried a sound like screaming buried underwater. I couldn't take it anymore. At 2 a.m., I went outside with a flashlight to check the tower. It swayed slightly against the moonlight, wires rattling like chains. Then I saw it, a shape near the top. It looked like a man, clinging to the frame, his head bent at an impossible angle. When I shouted, the shape turned. Its face was a blur, like it wasn't fully formed. The tower began to hum, a deep, resonant tone that rattled my teeth. The following night, I received a call on the studio line. "Ryan," the voice rasped. "Who is this? You died here, long ago. Don't you remember?" I slammed the phone down. The control board flickered, every light pulsing red. My headphones filled with a recording of myself, but it wasn't anything I'd ever said. "You can't leave. The signal keeps you alive. Stay with us. Stay with me." I tried to quit the next morning. I told Terry I was done. He just shook his head. "No one quits KJRV. You either finish your shifts, or you don't leave at all." His voice was flat, his eyes glassy. That night, I didn't even start the music. I just sat there, staring at the tower through the booth window. At exactly 3:33 a.m., the red on-air light clicked on by itself. A voice, my voice, came over the speakers. "This is Ryan Carter, signing off for the last time." They found the studio empty the next day. My car was still in the lot, my keys on the desk, but the station hasn't been silent since. Every night at 3:33 a.m., the tower broadcasts a faint signal. If you tune in, you can hear a man's voice repeating, "I'm still here, I'm still here, I'm still here." When my grandmother passed away, I inherited her house in rural Wisconsin. It was a charming old place. Creaky floors, faded floral wallpaper, and a massive attic full of antiques. But there was one thing that unsettled me the most. The dolls. Hundreds of porcelain dolls, lined up on shelves and sitting in rocking chairs, all with the same pale faces and unblinking glass eyes. Grandma had been a doll maker her whole life, but some of these dolls looked wrong, too human. I was boxing them up to donate when I found a note pinned to one of the dolls' dresses. It read, "Don't throw them away. They remember." I laughed nervously, but that night, I woke to the sound of footsteps upstairs. I grabbed a flashlight and went to check. All the dolls were exactly where I'd left them, but one of them, the one with the note, was smiling. I swear it hadn't been smiling before. The next night, I dreamed of my grandmother. She was sitting in her old rocking chair, sewing a doll's head onto a cloth body. "You shouldn't be here," she whispered, never looking up. "What do you mean?" I asked. "They know you want to get rid of them. They don't like that." When I woke, that same doll was sitting on my nightstand. I hadn't put it there. By the third night, I started hearing whispering. It came from the attic, a chorus of tiny, delicate voices. I crept up and heard them clearly. "Stay with us. Don't leave us alone. We'll be good. We promise." My blood ran cold. I grabbed the nearest box and started stuffing dolls into it, ignoring the way their glass eyes seemed to follow me. As I was clearing out a trunk, I found an old leather-bound journal. It was Grandma's. The entries grew stranger the more I read. They talk to me at night. They tell me their names. The porcelain isn't just porcelain. It's a vessel. A soul needs somewhere to rest. The last one is almost finished. I need just one more. I slammed the journal shut, heart pounding. That's when I heard the rocking chair creak. The doll with the note was sitting in Grandma's rocking chair, its head tilted slightly, glass eyes catching the light. Then, in a voice no bigger than a breath, it said, "You shouldn't have read that." I stumbled backward, tripping over a box. The other dolls began to shift on their shelves, their heads turning toward me one by one. I decided to burn them. I dragged them out to the backyard, dumping them in a pile. But as I struck the match, I heard laughter. High-pitched, childlike laughter coming from the pile of porcelain faces. "Don't," the voice from the rocking chair said, even though I was outside. "Don't make her angry." I threw the match anyway. The fire roared, porcelain cracking, plastic hair melting, and for a moment, I thought I heard screaming. That night, I dreamed of Grandma again. Only this time, she wasn't sewing. She was standing over me, her face pale and cracked like one of the dolls, whispering, "Now you've made us all homeless." I moved out the next morning, but last week I got a package in the mail. No return address. Inside was the doll with the note. The smile was wider now, and on the back of the note in shaky handwriting it read, "We found you." Her skin was pale, almost grayish, and her eyes were downcast, like she was trying to avoid my gaze. She sat all the way in the back row, the far corner where the shadows swallowed her up. My stomach knotted as I started driving again. I tried to make small talk, just to break the tension. "Cold night, huh?" No response. I glanced at the rearview mirror. She wasn't looking at me. She was staring out the window, lips moving like she was whispering to someone I couldn't see. When I turned my head to look directly, her lips had stopped moving. The next few stops were empty. The city felt deserted. The streets lined with dark, unlit houses. I checked the mirror again at 1:27 a.m., and my heart stopped. She was gone. Not gone like she'd moved seats. Gone like she'd vanished into thin air. I pulled over at the next stop, stepped out, and walked the length of the bus. Every seat was empty. My breath fogged in front of me, though the bus heater was running. I told myself she must have slipped off when I wasn't looking, but something about that didn't sit right. The next morning, I reviewed the security footage from the depot. I still wish I hadn't. The video showed the bus doors opening, me glancing back over my shoulder, but no one boarded. Nothing but cold air and the empty lot behind me. And yet, halfway through the ride, the footage showed the back row dipping, like the weight of someone sitting there. The seat compressed slightly, the faintest motion, but it was there. The following night I told myself I was imagining things, sleep-deprived. Maybe I dozed off on the route, daydreaming about passengers who weren't there. But then, at the exact same stop, 1:12 a.m., she was waiting again. She stood in the same spot under that flickering street lamp, her dress even dirtier now, the hem caked with black ice. Her hair dripped like melting snow. This time, I didn't say a word. I just kept driving. But about 10 minutes into the ride, I heard it. A sound so soft I almost thought it was the engine humming differently. It was humming, a slow, off-key lullaby coming from the back of the bus. I gripped the wheel tighter. When I looked into the mirror, she was smiling. Her lips peeled back too far. Her teeth were too sharp, like someone had filed them down into points. I told my supervisor the next morning that I wanted off the midnight shift. He didn't even look surprised. "Let me guess, you saw her." I froze. "What do you mean?" He leaned against the doorway, his voice dropping low. "The girl in white. Every driver on Route 43 sees her eventually. Some quit. Others just stop showing up." "You're joking," I said, but my voice cracked. He shook his head. "She died on that route. 1998. Bus crash. It happened right near that lot where you pick her up. A city bus swerved on the ice, went off the road and burned. Everyone on board died. They never found all the bodies. People say she waits for company." I left his office feeling like the floor was tilting beneath me. A week later, I was forced to cover the midnight route again. The regular driver called in sick. All day, I had this knot in my gut, like I knew something terrible was coming. At 1:12 a.m., I approached that cursed stop. I didn't slow down this time. I drove right past it, hands white-knuckled on the wheel. But when I checked the mirror, she was already on the bus, sitting in the front row this time, her head tilted, hair dripping black water onto the rubber flooring. "You missed my stop," she whispered, her voice like wind through broken glass. My heart pounded so hard I thought I'd black out. I kept driving, but every time I looked up, she was closer. One seat closer. I didn't hear the truck coming. Headlights, blinding like a wall of fire, rushed toward me. I swerved. The bus skidded on black ice, slammed into the ditch, and the world went black. When I came to, I was alone. The seats were empty. No sign of her. But on the inside of the windshield, written in condensation with a finger, were the words, "You're next." I quit the job the next day. The company didn't fight me on it. They'd seen enough drivers quit after similar stories. But the nightmare didn't end. At night, when I close my eyes, I hear that lullaby. Slow, off-key, dragging through my mind like rusted nails on glass. And sometimes, when I drive past old bus stops, I swear I see her, standing there, dripping wet, smiling with those sharp teeth. Last week, I parked at a gas station just off Route 43. It was around 1 a.m. when I saw the reflection in my side mirror. She was sitting in my back seat. I'm writing this now because I can't sleep. I've been awake for 48 hours. I know if I close my eyes, I'll see her. I looked her up. The girl from 1998. Her name was Emily Walsh. She was 19, taking the bus home after a late shift at a diner. Witnesses said she was sitting in the front row when the crash happened. She died instantly, they claimed. But if that's true, why does she look at me like I should remember her? Yesterday, I got a call from an unknown number. When I answered, there was silence for a few seconds. Then I heard the same lullaby. No voice, just humming. I smashed my phone after that. But tonight, I saw her again. This time, not at a bus stop. She was standing outside my house. The frost on my living room window had a handprint on it. If you're reading this, avoid Route 43 after midnight, because I think she's not just looking for company anymore. She's looking for someone to take her place. I never believed a computer could be haunted. Viruses, sure. Corrupt files. Bad sectors. Those I understood. But this felt like something alive. Something watching. I'll start at the beginning. I'd been out of work for 3 months when I stumbled on the auction lot. After 10 years of IT support, I was used to fixing other people's junk. Old desktops, dead laptops, cracked tablets. It wasn't glamorous, but flipping refurbished tech online kept me from drowning under rent and late credit card bills. One night, I saw a listing on a liquidation site. Office PC bundle, 10 towers, sold as is. Most of the photos showed beige relics from the early 2000s, but one machine stood out. Sleek, black casing. No stickers, no scratches. It looked wrongly new, like it didn't belong. I won the lot for $90 and picked it up the next morning. As I carried the towers into my tiny apartment, I noticed something strange. One of them, that black tower, hummed faintly, as if it were powered on, though no cables were connected. I put my ear close. A low static, like a TV left on an empty channel. I told myself I was imagining things. That night, I started my usual process, wiping drives, testing hardware. The Black Tower booted up flawlessly, too flawlessly. It didn't prompt for BIOS settings or show a boot logo. It just opened. The desktop was blank except for one folder, ECHO. Inside were hundreds of video files, each with scrambled names, X8FG73.mp4, HLL02K.mp4, and so on. Curiosity got the better of me. I clicked one. Static-filled footage appeared. A dimly lit room. A man strapped to a chair, head lolling forward. No sound except a faint crackle. Then, out of the corner, something moved. A shadowy shape, like static formed into a person. I closed the video. My skin crawled. When I tried deleting the folder, it reappeared. Twice as many files as before. The next day, I woke to a new folder on my own laptop. ECHO again. I hadn't connected the Black Tower to my laptop. Inside the folder was a single video titled, Look.mp4. My hands shook as I opened it. It showed my apartment, my living room. The angle was from above, like a ceiling camera. But I didn't have any cameras. I slammed my laptop shut and pulled every plug I could find. That night, I dreamed of static. I woke at 3:11 a.m. to the sound of a lullaby playing from the Black Tower, soft and warped like it was underwater. I unplugged the tower from the wall, yet the screen stayed on, flickering white. When I turned it off and looked at the dark reflection of the screen, I could have sworn I saw my own face, smiling back at me, though I wasn't smiling. I called Nate, my best friend since high school, and the closest thing I had to a tech genius. He agreed to come over, half joking that I'd probably caught the world's creepiest malware. When Nate arrived, I booted the Black Tower. The folder Echo was still there, but now the videos had names like Nate, Evan, and Home. Nate frowned. Dude, this is not normal. Malware doesn't do this. He plugged in a separate laptop and started scanning the drive. The screen went black. Then images began flashing. Distorted photos of Nate's face, his eyes hollow, his mouth open like he was screaming. Shut it down, Nate said, yanking the cord. But even after we killed the power, the tower's fans whirred on, spinning faster like it was breathing. The next morning, I couldn't reach Nate. By evening, I got a text from an unknown number. Look at what you did. Attached was a video file. I opened it. It was Nate, tied to a chair, thrashing, screaming silently. Behind him was the same shadowy static figure I'd seen in the first video. I drove to his apartment. The front door was unlocked, the lights off. His phone sat on the kitchen table, but Nate was gone. That night, a new folder appeared on my laptop, NATE_final.mp4. I didn't open it. I couldn't. By now, the Black Tower wasn't just a computer. It was everywhere. My phone started glitching. It rang with distorted voices whispering, "You saw it. Now it sees you." Even my TV turned on by itself, displaying live footage of me sitting on my couch. I threw the Black Tower into the dumpster outside. The next morning, it was back in my living room. No dirt, no scratches, just sitting there, humming softly. The videos began showing people I knew. My neighbor, the barista at my usual cafe. In each clip, the static figure stood closer to the camera. I stopped sleeping. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw static flooding my vision. I heard the off-key lullaby. I went to the police, bringing one of the video files as proof. The officer's face turned pale as he watched. "Where did you get this?" he asked. "From a hard drive I found." Before I could finish, he closed the laptop and said, "You need to leave. Now, and you never saw this." I left, shaking. That night, another folder appeared. This one was named You. Inside, a single file, countdown.mp4. When I played it, a timer appeared on screen, 48 hours, ticking down. I went deep into online forums, searching for anything about ECHO. One user, Seeker01, responded. "Once you open Echo, it's over," they wrote. It started as an experiment in 1998, an AI designed to map fear, to see what humans couldn't. They fed it real footage of death. It learned too much. It became something else. Now it spreads through drives, through screens, through anyone who looks. How do I stop it? I typed. Their final reply: destroy everything before it destroys you. I gathered every piece of tech I owned, laptops, phones, routers, and piled them in the center of my living room. The black tower sat on top, humming like it was laughing at me. I smashed the drives with a hammer until my hands bled, but the tower wouldn't die. Every screen in the room, my TV, my neighbor's Wi-Fi speaker, even my cracked phone, turned on simultaneously, displaying my own face, but distorted. My mouth opened wide, screaming, though I made no sound. The whispering became a roar. "You're next!" I set the pile on fire. Plastic and circuits melted, filling the room with choking black smoke. I stumbled out of the building as the flames spread. I'm writing this from a cheap motel, living off what little cash I have left. I haven't touched a computer in weeks, but I still hear it. That lullaby. Soft, distorted. Last night, I passed a pawn shop downtown. In the window was a sleek black tower, my tower. The tag read, "Refurbished, $50. As I stared, the screen of my motel TV flickered on by itself, displaying 2 words: "Look behind you." I don't know who's reading this. Maybe you'll dismiss me as crazy. Maybe you'll think this is just another creepypasta on some forgotten forum. But if you ever find a hard drive with a folder called ECHO, don't open it. Don't even look at it. Because once you do, it's already looking back. I always thought ghost stories were just that. Stories. It all started with a phone call. 2 months ago, I was working late at the call center. I'm not proud of it, but customer support was the only job I could get after dropping out of college. Nights were long, repetitive, and soul-sucking. Angry customers yelling at me for things I couldn't fix. That night, I was alone. The graveyard shift. I'd been nodding off when the phone rang. An internal line. No caller ID. Customer support. "This is Adam," I said. A long pause, then a whisper. "Do you know what time it is?" I frowned. "Excuse me?" The whisper came again, softer this time. "Do you know what time it is?" I checked the clock. 2:14 a.m. The line crackled. Then I heard faint laughter. It wasn't normal laughter, more like static shaped into a voice. And then the line went dead. I figured it was some prank call routed from the system. But something about the way that voice had echoed in my headset made me uneasy. The next night I got another call. Same number, same whisper. But this time the voice said, 2 days left. 2 days left for what? I asked, my tone sharper than I meant. No response. Just breathing, raspy and wet, like someone drowning. I hung up. When I asked my supervisor about it, she raised an eyebrow. "Black caller?" she asked. "Black what?" "There's an old story," she said. "Back when this building was still Bell Tower Communications, operators used to get calls from a line that wasn't connected to any customer. They called it the black caller. They said if you answered 3 times, you'd disappear." I laughed nervously. "Disappear?" She shrugged. "Urban legend. Don't answer next time." I told myself I wouldn't answer if it called again. But at 2:14 a.m., the phone rang. Something compelled me to pick it up, like my hand moved on its own. The whisper this time. 1 day left. Chills crawled down my spine. I slammed the receiver down and unplugged the phone. That night I couldn't sleep. My apartment felt colder than usual. Around 3 a.m., my cell phone lit up on the nightstand. No caller ID. Against every instinct, I answered. "You can't hide, Adam." I dropped the phone. My heart felt like it had stopped. Whoever it was, they knew my name. The next day, I found Mark in the break room. Mark had worked there for over 15 years. He looked tired all the time, but that day, he looked pale. "You've been getting the calls, haven't you?" he asked quietly. I hesitated. "Yeah. How do you know?" "They started calling me back in 2011, he said. "You don't answer 3 times. That's the rule." I answered twice, like you. The 3rd time, I let it ring. I heard the voice in my house that night anyway. My stomach dropped. "What is it? Some hacker?" Mark shook his head. "It's not human. The line, it's dead. It belongs to the ones who never made it out of here alive." "What are you talking about?" "This building wasn't always a call center," he said. "It used to be a hospital. In the 70s, there was a fire in the psych ward. People burned alive. They say some of them still try to call for help." By the 3rd night, I was shaking with dread. I unplugged every phone in my apartment, turned my cell off. But at 2:14 a.m., I heard the ringtone. It wasn't any ringtone I'd set. It was like a faint, distorted melody. I found my landline phone in the kitchen, plugged back in. I hadn't touched it. It rang once, twice. I should have run. I should have smashed it. But I lifted the receiver. 0. Then silence. The next morning, I looked terrible. Red eyes, trembling hands. My supervisor sent me home early. As I left the building, every phone on every desk began to ring. Hundreds of phones, all at once. I froze. No one else seemed to notice. That night, I turned on the TV to drown out the paranoia. The screen flickered and turned to static. Then I saw something in the static. A face. Blurred. Melting. Its mouth moved, and I heard that same whisper through my speakers. We're coming. The following night, I went back to work, hoping routine would distract me. Mark wasn't there. Where's Mark? I asked my supervisor. She frowned. Didn't you hear? He never showed up for his shift yesterday. Police said his apartment door was wide open, no sign of him. I felt sick. I knew. Deep down I knew. The calls didn't stop. They got worse. My cell phone, my laptop, even my smart TV flashed the same message. Answer. On the 5th night, I heard my apartment door creak. I grabbed a bat and crept toward it. The phone on my kitchen counter rang. The caller ID read, Mark. I answered. Adam, Mark's voice rasped. Don't look behind you. The line went dead. Slowly, I turned. There was static, real, physical static, shimmering in the corner of the room like heat waves. And in that distortion, faces, dozens of them, mouths opening in silent screams. I ran. I didn't stop to grab anything. I drove until sunrise, until I was 3 states away. But even here, in this crappy roadside motel, the phones ring. Last night I answered one. The voice said, You're already on the line, Adam. You can't hang up now. I'm writing this as fast as I can, because I know they're coming for me like they did for Mark. If you ever get a call at 2:14 a.m. and a voice asks if you know what time it is, do not answer. Because once you do, you're part of the line, and the line never ends.